Thank you very much, Mr Speaker, and it's been a long and tiring week for the chamber. And so I thought we might start this MPI with a bit of a game of truth and dare. A bit of a game of truth and dare, if those opposite are up for that. So where do we like to start? Would we like truth up to Labor or dare? Truth it is, truth it is. So the answer is yes or no to this one. Will the Labor Party break its promise of a $275 reduction in household power bills? Yes? No? True? False? Oh, they're silent, Mr Speaker. Nobody's actually accused the Labor Party of being very truthful. So let's go to the dare. Let's go to the dare. Let's dare any member of the Labor Party to raise their hand if they will guarantee the Australian people they will deliver on their promise of a $275 reduction in power bills. Any takers? Any takers? For Hansard, let it be known that not one Labor MP is prepared to stand by. Oh, we have one. We do have one. I apologise. I apologise. We have one. Let the record show. So, by look at the numbers, it's probably about less than 10% of the Labor Party believes in this House they're going to deliver on their $275 promise. We heard in question time, Deputy Speaker, a lot of questions about the decade that was. We see the Labor government inheriting government after a decade of delivery on the part of the coalition. And we also see Labor come to office after a decade of dithering in trying to formulate an energy policy. Now, we know that because you just have to look at the results. Look at the scoreboard. Our plan to deliver cheaper power prices for households, done, tick, delivered. Our plan to deliver lower power prices for businesses, done, tick, delivered. Our plan to deliver lower prices for industry, done, tick, delivered. And for those who don't know the stats on that, in fact, power prices came down by 8% in just the last term of the coalition government alone for households, 10% for businesses, 12% for industry. What we've seen from those opposite, what we've seen from Labor, is coming to office, and we have seen their promise for lower power bills for households. They promised it, they tried, and they failed. Lower power bills for businesses. They promised, they tried, they failed. Lower power prices for industry. Yep, that's right. They promised, they tried, and they failed. And a part of the reason for this, Deputy Speaker, is they had almost a decade to formulate an energy policy. But as soon as they entered office, they lost control. Within a month, Labor lost control of the energy market. Now, nobody's suggesting here whatsoever that energy is easy. Energy is highly complicated. Now, the war in Ukraine was raging long before last year's election. It is up to the government of the day to manage the situation domestically. The coalition understands that. The coalition understands that. Labor, though, came to office with a lot of promises. As soon as they were passed the ball, they were found flat-footed. They had no idea what to do. We almost begged them as the new opposition, saying, please engage with industry. Please engage with industry. But the Minister for Climate Change and Energy refused to engage with industry, believing, as Labor always does, that government knows best, that they know best, that he knows best. Instead of meeting with business, he met with climate activists. He put out media releases. He propagated, but he did not look for a solution. Meanwhile, the situation got worse and worse and worse. And as a result, the Australian people kept paying the price. Now, industry, the market operator, ACCC, they have all been saying from day one of this new Labor government the solution is supply. Supply, supply, supply. And Deputy Speaker, it's a pretty simple formula. For those on the government benches, price is a function of demand and supply. If you restrict supply, then it drives prices up. Now, everybody has been saying this to the Labor government, but they are refusing to listen. And you see that their entire suite of policies actually are aimed at restricting, suffocating supply. Let's look at the three areas of energy generation in Australia at the moment that are most prominent. Let's look at coal. Let's look at our baseload power stations. We have seen, since Labor has come to office, an acceleration of announcements by baseload power station owners of closures. Why? This is directly related to Labor's policy of the 82% renewable target by 2030, signalling to the market there is no role for baseload power, and within this very decade they are going to have 82% renewables. As a result, we are seeing 80% of baseload power come out of the grid by 2035. A policy decision Labor made to actually remove coal from the capacity mechanism. In other words, ensuring there is no financial incentive to keep these power stations open. Again, driving an earlier closure of coal, an earlier closure of coal-fired power stations. And they do this with 80% leaving the grid by 2035 without any guarantee whatsoever that there's going to be a system in place. You don't turn one system off without having another system ready to go. But that is the decision, that is the consequence of their policies. Well, if that's coal, let's now look at gas. All of Australia knows, unfortunately, Deputy Speaker, all of our trading partners know, that this government is seeking to suffocate the supply of gas. Now, we know, and we saw it last year, once you have insufficient reserve margin within the system, then the market operator will ensure that the lights don't go out. And what we saw last year was gas being used, but gas being called on. When there's unprecedented market intervention, as happened last year once Labor lost control of the market, we see prices go up, and who pays for that? Consumers. It comes through retail energy bills. So what have they done to try to get more supply of gas into the market? Yep, they took that also from the capacity mechanism. They decided that the Kurri Kurri gas plant shouldn't be gas at all. It must start with at least 30% hydrogen. So Kurri Kurri has now been postponed by at least 12 months. They cut $100 million from the budget for gas exploration and gas pipelines. They cut another $250 million for CCS projects. They provided $10 million for green lawfare so that we can have legal green activists actually go to court to take on gas development projects. They had unprecedented intervention into the market through price caps. They introduced a mandatory code of conduct, which of course sees them steering the direction of the market. They heightened uncertainty in the market through changes to the ADGSM. They introduced a punitive carbon tax, a methane pledge without doing any modelling. They are now looking at increasing the PRRT. Now, all of this, name me one measure of the Labor government that has led to an increase in supply of gas. All of these things are direct Labor policies, and the consequence is a restriction of supply and an increase in price. Let's now finish with renewables, Deputy Speaker. Coming after the coalition delivering record investment in renewables and all the talk of those opposite, here is what we have learnt since they've come to office. The Clean Energy Council, in a publication, Renew Economy, hardly a right-winger publication, has now revealed that construction is going well of renewables, $1.3 billion, based on the coalition's record of closing deals. But the first quarter of 2023 did not see one new renewable energy generation project closed. Not one of them reaching final closure. This is because of the sovereign risk that Labor has introduced. They're failing even on renewables. So next time you open your bill, Albo owes it.